Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pearce, Ukraine War Frontline update for the 8th of December 2023. If you don't know what the lines on my map mean, please check out the key to the map on the screen at the moment. Pause the video if you want to do that. In the meantime, let's go to the map. And actually, as you can see, it's just by Donetsk, the city of Donetsk here. I just want to superimpose a rough outline of Gaza onto this map. Someone asked me to do this in the threads. I thought it was a really good idea. So just check out how big. I think that's the right scale as far as I've got it at the moment. It might be a little bit off or something, but give or take, that is Gaza Strip, which is about 2 times the length of Donetsk city, as you know, the central part of Donetsk is, but you know, not Gaza's not as wide as Donetsk city. That is the size of Gaza Strip. So when we're talking about aid to Israel for basically taking out Hamas, we're looking at aid to help Israel take out militants in an area that kind of goes from Vuhledar to south of Avdiivka. So if we were then to get rid of that, so if we put the length of Gaza at least on here, I don't know if this is, I think it's useful, certainly interesting, then we can see that Gaza takes up that area, the front line, which is, I don't know, probably about a tenth of, well, 10th, that's maybe a 20th, really. Depends how long you see the front line, a 15th of the front line, maybe. That is the size of Gaza, and yet it's kind of getting the billing that has overtaken Ukraine in the news ladder, strangling the bandwidth for Ukraine. And it's, I don't know, Ukraine is so massively important for geopolitical reasons. I think it's just been overlooked to a large degree at the moment. Anyway, let's now look at the front line. As you can see, there's no change to the front line in this northern Kupiansk direction. In fact, ISW doesn't really have an awful lot to say until you get down to Avdiivka, really. So as we come down that northeastern front line, past Crimea, where there is activity taking place. I've seen some video footage coming out of the forest of Crimea, some really tough fighting there. We saw in Vasily area, the Russians making some gains there, and that was reported in the ISW as well. So they do mention that. We come to Bakhmut. Now, this is a Syriac Maps claim. So take it with a pinch of salt, but I think this is really significant. So we are going to go to Bakhmut, to the south of Bakhmut, to in fact Klishchivka. And I've talked to you a number of times about how really Klishchivka is not so important as in the settlement itself, but it is the ridge, the high ground behind Klishchivka to its west, upon which there is a big network of trenches. So here are the fortifications built into the side. And these would be outdated trench lines anyway compared to what will be there now. I don't know if this is still a 2018 imagery here, or I think this is a slightly updated bit of imagery in certain areas, but not in Klishchivka itself, because these are completely destroyed houses now. However, I don't think they had this extensive trench networks previously. So I think Google Earth and Google Maps have updated this part of the map, but not Klishchivka itself. Anyway, as I've told you, 100 times, this is the high ground that overlooks Klishchivka and gives the Ukrainians a real advantage in terms of securing Klishchivka and going beyond, where they can use ATGMs, they can use mortars, tanks, whatever, to fire over into the distance and over Klishchivka, and certainly help to maintain control over Klishchivka. Well, according to Syriac Maps, as you can see, the entire trench network has fallen under the control of the Russians, as the control for that land is indicated on their map here by that orange line. That is basically the entirety of the trench network. Of course, this has not been confirmed, but they claim that the Russian army took full control over the Ukrainian defense system located in 215 Point 7 Hill, north of Klishivka. Intense bombardment over the town suggests an assault to recapture it would take place in the next few days. That's the question. Do the Ukrainians try and... Well, okay, first of all, has that actually happened? Don't know yet. Surat Maps has been fairly accurate this last week or so, but you would expect there to be a lot more news about this. Nonetheless, the Russians have got closer and closer moving along the top of this hill, so they had looked like they were on the verge of assaulting this trench network. Okay, so has it happened? Second of all, what do the Ukrainians do about it? Do they take it back, and that would incur quite a cost to them, or do they concede that territory to the Russians, move out of Klishivka and adopt defensive lines further back, somewhere to the west, keeping Chasiv Yar safe? So, yeah, we'll see what is happening there over the next few days. See what other mappers suggest is taking place there. I mean, there's a big difference between the blue lines of Andrew Perpetua's mapping there, and I need to change the thickness of my lines. It's really difficult when I do this and JR, we do this in Google Maps and then transport it into Google Earth, and it does funky things, and it's not too easy, but we kind of need to look at it in Google Earth because it doesn't look as nice in its original format in Google Maps. But I will try and get the blue line thicker, and at the moment the yellow line of Deep State map is far thicker than it has previously been, so I don't know what's gone on there. Anyway, as we come on down south past the Kurdyivka, where there's not really a lot of news coming out of there, we come to Avdiivka. And there are a few sources making claims about Avdiivka. As you can see, Surat Mats being one of the main ones. So we'll go to Surat Mats first. From the northern axis, the Russian army increased control along the railway south of Novokonyovo. It says here, so that is the railway line going past Stepova. Novokonyovo is up here. So from the southern axis, Russian forces secured the quarry adjacent to Vinogradniki Dacha. This is just a little quarry there. So as we can see up here, Deep State map agrees with the Surat Maps assessment there. So both those mappers agree that a small area of land has been taken by the Russians on the way north along this railway line. Let's have a look, see if there's any interesting topography around here. It is going uphill, it appears. So that is an uphill battle, quite literally. And we'll see how that turns out over the next couple of days. The Ukrainians have been very active around here. There's some footage, pieces of video of Bradleys firing off their auto cannons at the Russians, I think, in this general area. But this second place talked about was the quarry just to the west of the industrial zone, the south of Avdiivka there. So the Russians having some success there, by all accounts. I think that was reporting from Ukraine's video this morning as well. Okay, let's look at a couple of other sources. So Global War Monitor, I think, generally goes along largely with what Surat Map says, certainly on a number of occasions, showing here at least that the Russians are having success around the coke plant and then further north past Stepova, as you've just seen. Now, Andrew Perpetua's map here I thought was interesting. I'll show you this because this is Avdiivka, and we can see that the Ukrainians are using an awful lot of drones to pin back the Russians, and also they are shelling around Stepova. So that is involving a number of vehicles being lost and troops being lost as well. I just thought that was an interesting switcheroo, really, because we have seen certain areas that are covered in red pins. Well, actually, Avdiivka is a rare example of more blue pins than red pins. The Russians are using a lot more of their airstrikes around here. There is a drone attack there, but airstrikes onto the center of Avdiivka. This kind of goes back to what I was saying about the claims that Russia are building 300,000 FPV drones to Ukraine's 50,000. So if they had a 6-to-1 ratio of drones, why is it that we see a lot more footage of Ukrainian drones than Russian drones? And this is coming from Andrew Perpetua's sourcing, and he's admitted that he uses 2/3 Russian social media outlets to and sources to generate his mapping and to generate his lists. So he goes out of his way to search for Russian sources and to search them for evidence of Ukrainian losses, and then comes up with the data he has. So if there was a 6-to-1 manufacturing differential between the Russian drones and Ukrainian drones, then why do we see a lot more Ukrainian drone footage than Russian drone footage, and Russian vehicle losses to those drones? You'd expect it to be the other way around. So that's why I'm a little bit dubious about those manufacturing figures. But I could be wrong, but just, trying to join the dots here. Okay, so we have some, in fact, the ISW talks about this. Geolocated footage published on the 5th and 6th shows that Russian forces made marginal advances east of Stepover and southeast of Avdiivka. So here we have 47th Mechanized Brigade demonstrates a repelled Russian attack on Stepover. So the Russians are evident here. Attacking, I don't think it necessarily means they're controlling this area wherever the pin lands, but they are attacking there. Yeah, and that's actually safely in where we'd think they were anyway. So there is that. And then I don't know if there's any other, there are some other videos, but yeah, you get the idea. Here's another piece of video showing drones hitting Russian, I think, targets there. And this is, I think, in a different position. I'm hoping this is the one to the southeast of Avdiivka. And we shall see. Yeah. And so that shows that the Russians are at the extent of where Andrew Perpetua has them, or safely behind their lines as far as Surrey Maps is concerned. And they are being hit by drones, Ukrainian drones there. And indeed, no, actually that one's not registered on Andrew's map there. But yeah, there is evidence of drone activity around Avdiivka, both to the north and to the south. Okay, right, let us just get the map reset to how it should be. Okay, and then we'll go on to just a couple of sources that give you a general understanding of what's going on here. Here's some Bradley footage that is doing around, and it's quite impressive footage. So this is an M792HE. These are M792HE rounds, high explosive rounds, being fired at around 200 rounds per minute setting, says Thomas Tyner. These can do quite a bit of damage by the looks of it. So the 25mm autocannon on top of the Bradley, it could indeed be, thanks music, could indeed be the Bushmaster. Yeah, doing some damage to Russian positions there, one would assume. Quite a bit of range as well. It's quite far away to shoot that autocannon. And as you can see, yeah, high explosive rounds, so that each of those rounds can cause, pretty sizable explosion, all things considered. So anyway, that's a bit of footage that's doing the rounds. Somewhere around Avdiivka, and a Ukrainian tank is hunting Russian troops in the ruins of Avdiivka's north. They got stomped from their hideout and some of them flee. So this is the coordinates of the fight, so I can't really show you too much more of the video footage, but you can check it out on Tendar's feed and elsewhere. So Ukrainian tank hammering the Russians in and around Avdiivka. Let's see where this tank is operating. And oops, didn't like that. It might be all of the other elements of those coordinates. Oh no, it's fine with that. Yeah, so that is a Ukrainian tank going into this area that Surrey Maps has under Russian control. Could be trying to counter there and push the Russians back. Obviously, Russians in that area, so whether you call that Russian controlled or contested, given that there's a tank in there, given the Russian infantry, something to think about. But yeah, so that is to say that there's still activity going on in a number of these places. Even though you don't see pins or movement on the map, it doesn't mean that there isn't huge amount of military activity taking place. Right, then we are going to come down past Mariinka, past Vuhledar, even past Staromyorsky and the Velika Novosilka sector, where, I mean, there is mention in the ISW, just, there's not an awful lot. We're going to go to Robota, which is further to the west, and you can see there's a little bit of gain here for the Russians, as according to Syriac maps. So they say that the situation on the Zaporizhia front, Russia retook enemy positions in Robota during the operation. Troops captured and abandoned Leopard 2, so that's where there's some selfies with a Leopard 2. The tank is not a valuable booty to improve military capabilities, but it is valuable booty to reinforce propaganda work, an advanced weapon that was going to be essential for the Ukrainian army to break the Russian defences and reach the Sea of Azov, an objective that was never achieved. Okay, fair enough, Syriac. You tell us what you think, mate. So as well as that, no, that's going on to Krynki further afield. It's in the wrong group. So we're going to go to the ISW. It says Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian forces repelled up to 6 Russian attacks near Robota and Novoprokopivka and west of Verbove. The Mill blogger claimed that rain and mud are inhibiting Russian and Ukrainian ground assaults northwest and west of Verbove. So there is the weather to contend with in this area. As you can see, Russia has, according to Syriac map, made some gains back towards Robota from the Kopani direction, and that will obviously be a bit of a challenge for the Ukrainians, who were doing sort of better there than most other places around Robota. But yeah, the Russians might well be fighting with the wind behind their sails now to some degree. And then we come to the Nepro River, where there are no changes again to the mapping, and that's something that I always think is a bit of a worry. Now, if you watch, there are some sources like Maria with her channel, she sometimes posts in the threads below. She was talking about there were claims that the Ukrainians have pushed south of Krynki and are indeed in control of land sort of 6 kilometers to the south, really. So that kind of distance. There are some claims to that. Now, I've not seen that anywhere else, but it could be that the Ukrainians have a greater area of control around Krynki than some of the mappers are giving them credit for, but I cannot confirm that. A war monitor here says the Ukrainian loitering munitions hit and destroyed 3 armoured vehicles of the Russian forces south of Krynki, along with several assault groups, and that indicates they are vehicles to the north of that road, which would indicate that the Ukrainians don't control that land. And then here we have, actually this is going on to talk about Crimea. So just to let you know that yeah, doesn't seem to be any confirmed movement around there, although there are a few rumors. Finally, I'm just going to mention something that has come out on the socials. So Ukrainian military raids in occupied Crimea will continue, according to Andriy Yusov, a representative of the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications of Ukraine. Quote, there is public information about several raids. In fact, there were more of them, but we will not reveal all the details yet. We can claim that these are definitely not the last raids and operations, but such special operations allow Ukrainian spies to gather information and carry out subversive tasks. It says Flash News here. I always find it interesting when they make these official announcements. You're thinking, what are you trying to do? You're telegraphing what you might do. I don't know what the value of that is, but obviously there is some PR value in saying we are still going to be committing ourselves to doing things like this. Is it so that the Russians commit resources to defending those lands? Is it to communicate to the international public that, hey, we're still in this, don't forget about us, we are still able to commit to raids across the water into Crimea, that we are still newsworthy? I don't know exactly what the point of announcing those kinds of things, what the point is. Anyway, that is the Frontline update for the 8th of December. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. Really appreciate all your support. Take care and speak to you soon.